to this video, we will be talking about the January 2022 English 8 Paper 2. First, we have the summary section, and our instructions are to read the following article on the use of social networks carefully. We must first list the 5 main points discussed, then write a summary of the article in not more than 120 words in one paragraph. If the word limit is exceeded, only the first 120 words of your answer will be read and assessed. You must include in your summary paragraph the 5 points listed and any other relevant points. So let's first read the summary, the extract. It's called The Use of Social Networking, adapted from Mark D. Griffith's Addicted to Social Media from a website called psychologytoday.com. So it goes. The use of social networking sites such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tinder has become the cornerstone of modern communication and connection, as these sites create a sense of belonging for users and redefine their way of being. Despite the many positive benefits and impacts of these sites, the recent Cambridge Analytica scandal has reignited discussions about the place of social media and social networking sites in our lives. Over the past 5 years, there has been an increase in the number of studies assessing how excessive social media use can impact negatively on health. In a recent paper, Drs. Cuss and Griffiths showed that social media use for a minority of individuals is associated with a number of psychological problems, including anxiety, depression, loneliness, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and addiction. Because social media is most frequently accessed via smartphones, their usage is intimately intertwined, and their mobile nature contributes to excessive checking habits, which often derive from what is commonly labeled as fear of missing out or FOMO. Drs. Cuss and Griffiths also found that for a small minority of individuals, there was a significant detrimental effect on their real-life relationships and academic achievement among those still in education. Such signs are indicative of addiction. The good news is that very few people are genuinely addicted to social media. However, many people's social media use is habitual, and it can start to spill over into other areas of their lives and be problematic and dangerous, such as checking social media while driving. Other behaviors may be annoying rather than dangerous, such as checking social media while eating out with friends or constantly checking your smartphone while watching a movie at the cinema. Others may snub social contact with their loved ones or friends and prefer to check out social media on their smartphone instead, so-called phobbing. At a societal level, steps need to be taken by governments or organizations to help minimize and, in some cases, prohibit the use of mobile devices. Some such steps may include the banning of smartphone use while driving. Given the loss of productivity in both the workplace and educational settings, employers, schools, and colleges need policies in place to ensure that individuals are focused on what they should be doing. When it comes to solving the problem of reducing individuals' use of social media, there is no magic bullet. While individuals are ultimately responsible for their own social media use, policymakers, social media operators, employers, and educational establishments all need to play their part in reducing excessive social media use. So now let us list our 5 main points. Our 5 main points are: social networking has become an important part of modern communication and helps people feel connected. Excessive social media use can negatively affect people's mental health. Frequent smartphone access can encourage compulsive checking habits and addictive social media use. Problematic social media use can harm real-life relationships, academic performance, and daily responsibilities. Individuals, governments, organizations, and social media operators all need to help reduce excessive social media use. So now, if you remember correctly, they said that we must include the 5 main points as well as any other relevant points. So any other relevant points we found too would be: most people are not truly addicted to social media, but many still use it habitually. Clear rules and policies may be needed to limit mobile device use in certain places and situations. Let us read the summary now. Social networking has become an important part of modern communication because it helps people feel connected. However, although most people are not truly addicted to social media, many use it habitually, especially because frequent smartphone access encourages compulsive checking. Over time, excessive social media use can negatively affect mental health and may lead to addictive behavior. As a result, problematic use can harm real-life relationships, academic performance, and daily responsibilities. Therefore, individuals, governments, organizations, and social media operators must help to reduce excessive social media use, and clear rules or policies may be needed to limit mobile device use in certain places and situations for the protection and well-being of users. The connectives we used would have been however, over time, as a result, therefore. And remember, the order that you list your points in does not really matter in the summary. You can list it in any order that is logical for your summary. When you listen it in your 5 main points up here, they could also be in any order. Now, our next section of the paper is our expository writing. Okay, so it goes. The mother of Ryoko Walton, Miss Mary Walton, needs to inform the principal of Trinity High School, Mrs. Avenge, that her son's school uniform and books were destroyed in the recent floods that swept the country. Ryoko, a student of Form 4 Business, will not be able to attend school in uniform for the next 2 weeks, during which time the new uniform will be acquired. Ryoko's mother needs to ask the principal's permission for him to attend school out of uniform and without his textbooks so that he does not miss any of his classes. Write the letter that Ryoko Walton's mother would write to the principal. Make sure to include all relevant details in the letter to the principal so that all concerned will be fully aware of the situation. Right. So let's take a look at the letter we wrote. We have the sender's address. It is a formal letter, by the way. The sender's address is on the left-hand side, 15 Riverside Road, Trinity. The date is the 3rd of January 2022. On the left-hand side, we have Mrs. Avenge, which is the name of the principal. The principal, Trinity High School, Trinity. So on the side, we have the recipient's address. Now we have Dear Mrs. Avenge. Request for permission. Oops. It's in the wrong location. So the subject is supposed to be first, and then you have your Dear Mrs. Avenged. So our subject or title for the letter is Request for Permission for Ryoko Walton to attend school out of uniform. And our opening salutations is Dear Mrs. Avenge. So when you're in the exam, it's very important to check over the end to ensure things like that do not happen. If you were to submit that in the exam, you would lose marks for formatting as it must be in the correct order. So always check over to make sure you have no mistakes. So we have Dear Mrs. Avenge. I am writing to inform you that my son, Ryoko Walton, a student of Form 4 Business, was affected by the recent floods that swept the country. Unfortunately, his school uniform and textbooks were destroyed during the flooding. That's our introduction telling the principal why we are writing. As a result, Ryoko will not be able to attend school in his proper uniform for the next 2 weeks. During this time, I will be making arrangements to purchase a new uniform and replace his textbooks. However, I do not want him to miss any of his classes, especially since he is in Form 4 and needs to keep up with his schoolwork. I am therefore kindly requesting your permission for Ryoko to attend school out of uniform and without his textbooks until these items are replaced. I assure you that he will dress neatly and appropriately during this period. I would also be grateful if his teachers could allow him to share books with classmates or use any available class materials until his textbooks are replaced. So here we have our body with all of the relevant information. Now, thank you for your understanding and assistance in this difficult situation. This is us expressing gratitude to the reader or the recipient, and I look forward to your favorable response is expressing hopes of future interaction. as well as something positive. And we end off with yours respectfully, Mary Walton. Remember, Mary Walton is his mother. They gave us the name of the person, so we have to use the name that they gave us. And when you're writing your closing salutations, only the Y is capital in yours respectfully. Now let's take a look at the narrative that we have. So our narrative is 400 to 450 words. We have a picture with a man on a boat. But this is how the papers usually look if it is a physical real life exam. The picture is in black and white and you can't really tell very much, so you can't tell if it's day or night. But I guess maybe you could tell it's day because it's a brightish picture. But it's just not very clear. And you also have the worded prompt. So we have Marvin opened the note and read, "Your life is in danger. Say nothing to anyone. You must leave immediately and never return. Write your story which includes these sentences." So we don't have to write a story starting with it or ending with it. We could put the lines anywhere we want. We can also, but we must include the lines. So we can't write a story just based on it. It must include those lines. So let's read the story. Okay, our story goes, Marvin had always believed that the old house at the end of Kane Street was harmless. It was broken, silent, and forgotten. Every afternoon on his way home from school, he passed it without fear. However, that Thursday evening, something felt different. The gate was open. A cold breeze moved through the yard, although the air had been hot all day. Marvin slowed his steps. His mother had warned him never to go near the place, but curiosity pulled him closer. As he passed the front steps, something white fluttered from beneath a loose stone. It was a folded note. Marvin looked around. The street was empty except for a stray dog near a drain. His fingers trembled as he picked up the paper. It was old and dirty, but his name was written clearly across the top. Marvin opened the note and read, "Your life is in danger. Say nothing to anyone. You must leave immediately and never return." For a moment, he could not move. His heart thudded deeply, loudly in his chest. Who had written this? Why was his name on it? He wanted to believe it was a prank, but the words looked too serious. Suddenly, a sound came from inside the house. Creak. Marvin stepped backwards. The front door moved slowly as if someone had pushed it from within. Then he saw a shadow pass behind the cracked window. He ran. His school bag bounced against his back as he raced down the street. By the time he reached home, his shirt was soaked with sweat. He wanted to tell his mother, but the warning kept repeating in his mind. Say nothing to anyone. That night, Marvin could not sleep. Around midnight, a stone struck his window. Tap, tap, tap. He sat up and saw another folded paper on the windowsill. With shaking hands, he opened it. Your father did not disappear by accident. Meet me at the old jetty before sunrise. Marvin's breath caught in his throat. His father had vanished 5 years earlier while working as a security guard. Everyone said he had left the country, but Marvin had never believed it. Before dawn, Marvin slipped out and hurried to the jetty. Mist covered the sea. By the far end stood an old man holding a small metal box. You look like him, the man whispered. Like who? Marvin asked. Your father. The man handed Marvin a photograph, a key, and a police badge. Your father discovered something dangerous. The men who threatened him are back, and now they know about you. Before Marvin could answer, headlights flashed behind him. Run, the old man shouted. Marvin gripped the key and sprinted towards the fishing boats. The note had not been a prank. It had saved his life. Alright, so now let us analyze this story. The opening of the hook is Marvin had always believed that the old house at the end of Kane Street was harmless. This works as the very first line as it creates curiosity immediately. It makes the reader wonder why the old house is mentioned and whether it is really harmless or not. It also introduces the main character, who's Marvin. It introduces an important place, which is the old house. It suggests that Marvin's belief may soon be proved wrong with foreshadowing, and it creates mystery from the beginning. The phrase "had always believed" is important because it hints that something is going to change. The reader begins to suspect that the house may not be harmless after all. Let's talk about the characters a bit. We have Marvin, who's the main character. He is the person experiencing the danger and the mystery. That's his purpose. Remember, all characters in your story must have a purpose. You should not have so many characters where one of them doesn't have a purpose. Marvin's mother is also an important character. She's the person who wants him about the house. It helps to create suspense because she had warned him not to go near the house. There's the old man, who's the mysterious person who gives Marvin the information. He gives him some important information about the father. That is his purpose. Marvin's father is in the story. He is important to the backstory, although he does not appear directly in the story. He is there to create emotional interest because of his disappearance, as he is connected to danger. Then there is the dangerous men, who are the threat in the story. They create the fear and conflict, even though they remain mostly unseen in the story. All of these characters make the story easy to follow as well as exciting. So let's talk more specifically about the main character. The main character is Marvin, and he is presented as someone who is curious, frightened, confused, brave, determined, and emotionally connected to his father. The story doesn't just say Marvin was scared at any point in time. Instead, his fear is shown through his actions and his body reactions. For example, his fingers tremble when he picks up the note, his heart thuds loudly in his chest, he runs when he sees the shadow in the house, he cannot sleep that night, and he slips out before dawn to meet the old man. This is effective as it follows the rule of show, do not just tell. The setting of the story includes the old house at the end of Kane Street. It also includes the empty street, Marvin's home at night, the old jetty before sunrise, and the misty sea. The setting is not just the place, it also helps to create the mood of the story. So the old house creates the mood of mystery, danger, fear, secrecy, and suspense. Details like broken, silent, and forgotten, the gate was open, a cold breeze, and a shadow behind the cracked window help to make the house seem frightening. The jetty setting also works well because it feels lonely and secretive. The mist over the sea makes the meeting with an old man feel mysterious and dangerous. Let's talk about the conflict or the problem, as there is no story without a problem. So it is when the story says Marvin receives a warning that his life is in danger, and he must discover why he is being threatened before the dangerous men find him. This works as every good story needs a problem. Without a problem, there is no suspense. Marvin is personally in danger. The warning note is mysterious. His father's disappearance is connected to the threat. He does not know whom to trust, and the danger becomes more serious when headlights appear behind him. The reader cares because Marvin is young, confused, and vulnerable, and he's not really looking for danger, but danger finds him. The backstory explains what happens before the main events of the story happens. So, in the story, the backstory is Marvin's father disappeared 5 years earlier. His father had worked as a security guard. People believed he had left the country. Marvin never fully believed that explanation, and his father had discovered something dangerous. The backstory helps the reader to understand that the warning note is not random, it is connected to Marvin's father. Without the backstory, the story would only be about a boy finding a frightening note. With the backstory, the story becomes about family secrets, danger from the past, a missing father, hidden evidence, survival. This makes the story more interesting and emotional. Let's talk about the plot structure. A good narrative usually has these parts. The exposition, so this is the beginning of the story where it introduces the character, the setting, and the situation. So Marvin walks past the old house after school. The house is described as broken and forgotten. Marvin's mother had warned him not to go near it. The gate is open, which makes the scene feel unusual. This introduces the mystery and prepares the reader for danger. Then we have the rise in action. So this is where the tension builds in the story. This is when Marvin notices the open gate. He finds a folded note. His name is written on it. This note warns him that his life is in danger. He hears a sound inside the house. The front door moves. He sees a shadow behind the window, and another note arrives at his bedroom window that night. So all of these events create suspense. Now we have the climax of the story. This is the most tense and important moment. So the climax is Marvin meets the old man at the jetty, learns that his father discovered something dangerous, and then headlights flash behind him. This is the climax because Marvin finally learns that the danger is real. His father's disappearance is connected to the warning. The dangerous men are close. Marvin has to run to save himself. The line "run" makes the climax urgent and dramatic. Then we have the fall in action. So this is what happens immediately after the climax. So this is when the old man tells Marvin to run. Marvin grips the key. He sprints towards the fishing boats. So this shows Marvin reacting to the danger. Then the resolution is the end. So this is when it says the note had not been a prank, it had saved his life. This works because it brings the story right back to the note. At first, Marvin wondered whether the note was a prank, but by the end he realizes it was real. So the ending gives us closure, suspense, a final twist, and a strong connection to the prompt. It doesn't fully solve the mystery of his father, but it ends in an exciting way. We have some dialogue in the story to help it feel alive and realistic. Dialogue is very important. In the CSEC exam, you must have some elements of dialogue. So every line has to have a purpose. You look like him creates mystery. Like who shows Marvin's confusion. Your father reveals the connection to Marvin's missing father. And run creates urgency and danger. It is short, so it creates suspense in the story. Long conversations will just slow down the action. We also have suspense in the story, so it is created. So when it is created, it makes the readers wonder why the old house is important, who wrote Marvin's name on the note, why is Marvin's life in danger, is someone inside the house, what really happened to Marvin's father, who are the men coming after him, and will Marvin escape? So some techniques we use is when they open the gate, the cold breeze, the folded note, Marvin's name on the paper, the frightening warning, the creaking sound, the shadow behind the window, the second note at midnight, the secret meeting before sunrise, the headlights at the jetty. So the mood and the emotion. In the beginning, the story has a mysterious, uneasy, and tense mood. Then coming down to the middle, it becomes more frightening, suspenseful, and confusing. But by the end, it is now dangerous, urgent, and exciting. So it does not end peacefully, but instead Marvin is actually running for his life. We have elements of imagery and description too, so it helps the readers to imagine the scene. For example, broken, silent, and forgotten. A cold breeze moved through the yard. Something white fluttered from beneath a loose stone. His heart thudded loudly in his chest. Mist covered the sea. Headlights flashed behind them. It's effective as the readers could actually see the images. We could see the old house. We could feel Marvin's fear. We could imagine the quiet street and sense the danger at the jetty, as well as understand the urgency at the end. We also have figurative language and sound or onomatopoeia. So examples would be creak, tap, 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 and his heart thudded loudly in his chest. It is effective as it makes the house seem haunted and occupied. It makes the midnight scene frightening, and it shows Marvin's fear without simply saying he was afraid. Now the ending works as it connects directly to the warning from the prompt. It gives us a final realization, a sense of danger, suspense, and a strong link back to the beginning. Although it does not answer every question, it is still acceptable because the story is suspenseful. The reader is left wondering what Marvin will do next and what really happened to his father. Alright, now let us look at the argumentative section of the paper. So the argumentative essay needs to be 250 to 300 words. Our prompt is: crime among the youth is the result of poor parenting. Write an essay giving your views on the statement. So our essay goes: youth crime is a serious problem in many societies. Some people believe that young people become involved in crime mainly because of poor parenting. However, that is not the only cause. In reality, crime among the youth may also result from poverty, peer pressure, and negative community influences. To begin with, poverty can lead some youths into crime. In poor communities, some young people may feel pressured to steal, sell drugs, or join gangs in order to get money, clothes, or food. When a young person sees no hope or employment or success, he or she may be more likely to make poor choices. For this reason, poverty can increase youth crime. Another important factor is peer pressure. Teenagers often want to feel accepted by their friends. Consequently, they may become involved in fighting, stealing, bullying, or drug use because they want to impress others or avoid being rejected. This shows that even a child from a good home can be influenced by the wrong group of friends. Additionally, negative community influences can lead some youths into crime. In communities where gangs, drug activity, violence, and law breaking are common, young people may begin to see crime as normal or acceptable. Over time, youth may copy these behaviors in order to gain money, protection, respect, or acceptance. As a result, negative community influences can increase youth crime by exposing young people to criminal behavior and making them more likely to follow bad examples. In conclusion, youth crime is caused by several factors, not poor parenting alone. Poverty, peer pressure, and negative community influences can all push young people towards criminal behavior. Therefore, society must address these problems by providing support, guidance, and positive opportunities for youths. Let us look at an in-depth explanation or analysis. The side we take in the story is that youth crime is not caused by poor parenting alone, but instead is caused by poverty, peer pressure, and negative community influences. Our opening or hook is: youth crime is a serious problem in many societies. It introduces the general topic of youth crime as well as tells the readers what the essay will focus on. We also acknowledge the other side in our background information. We say some people believe that young people become involved in crime mainly because of poor parenting. However, that is not the only cause. This shows that the writer understands the statement in the question. The writer does not ignore poor parenting completely, but argues that it is not the only cause. So the essay sounds more fair and balanced. Then we have our thesis statement, which is: in reality, crime among the youth may also result from poverty, peer pressure, and negative community influences. So we have our position as well as our 3 reasons. The first body paragraph focuses on poverty. So it starts off with the topic sentence of: to begin with, poverty can lead some youths into crime. This clearly introduces the first reason, and we use the transition to begin with to indicate that we are talking about our first main point. The explanation for this point is: in poor communities, some young people may feel pressured to steal, sell drugs, or join gangs in order to get money, clothes, or food. This develops the point by explaining why poverty may push some youths into crime. It does not simply say poor people commit crime. Instead, it explains the pressure that some young people may feel when they lack basic needs or opportunities. It continues with: when a young person sees no hope of employment or success, he or she may be more likely to make poor choices. So this is important because it explains the mindset of a young person who feels hopeless. This paragraph shows that crime may sometimes come from desperation or lack of opportunity. The paragraph ends with: for this reason, poverty can increase youth crime. So this sentence links back to the main argument as well as reminds the reader that poverty is a cause of youth crime. Our second body paragraph is on peer pressure. Our topic sentence is: another important factor is peer pressure. Our explanation is: teenagers often want to feel accepted by their friends. So this explains why peer pressure is powerful. Many young people want approval and belonging, so they may follow others even when they know something is wrong. The essay continues with, consequently, they may become involved in fighting, stealing, bullying, or drug use because they want to impress others or avoid being rejected. This sentence develops the point well because it gives specific examples or criminal or antisocial behavior. Examples would be fighting, stealing, bullying, drug use. We also use the word consequently as a connective to show results. We also have the linking sentence of, this shows that even a child from a good home can be influenced by the wrong group of friends. So this is a strong linking sentence because it directly challenges the statement in the question. It proves that youth crime cannot always be blamed on poor parenting. Instead, even children with good parents may be negatively influenced by friends. We have our third body paragraph, which is on negative community influences. So the topic sentence goes, additionally, negative community influences can lead some youths into crime. This introduces the third reason clearly. The word additionally helps the essay to sound more organized as it shows another point is being added. The explanation goes, in communities where gangs, drug activity, violence, and law breaking are common, young people may begin to see crime as normal or acceptable. This is a strong explanation because it shows how the environment can shape a young person's behavior. If crime is common around them, they may start to believe it is normal. It continues, over time, youths may copy these behaviors in order to gain money, protection, respect, or acceptance. It further develops the point by explaining why young people may imitate criminal behavior. We also have the linking sentence of, as a result, negative community influences can increase youth crime by exposing young people to criminal behavior and making them likely to follow bad examples. So it links back to the main argument, as well as explains why youth crime may be caused by environment and exposure, not just the parenting. And our conclusion goes, we have to restate the position, which is youth crime is caused by several factors, not poor parenting alone. So it clearly reminds reader of our point of view, and we summarize the main points by saying poverty, peer pressure, and negative community influences can all push young people towards criminal behavior. So it repeats the main arguments as well as explaining them all again. And our closing sentence is, therefore, society must address these problems by providing support, guidance, and positive opportunities for youths. So this is a strong ending because it does not just repeat the essay, it offers a solution. It suggests that the whole society has a role to play in reducing youth crime. Alright, thank you everyone. This is the end of our video, so thank you for watching.